Welcome to the official channel of Prosper Anang Ministries. Step into a powerful journey of faith, inspiration, and spiritual growth with Pastor Prosper, a privileged servant of Jesus. As the lead pastor of the New Testament Gospel Church in Benin City, Nigeria, Pastor Prosper is on a global mission to transform lives. He is an author, writer, fluently sharing God's Word, deep, life-changing insights right to your screen. If you are seeking spiritual guidance, a vibrant faith with God, you are in the right place.
Imagine you are standing in front of a massive, centuries-old palace. The architecture's stunning, the crowds are cheering.
Oh yeah, painting quite the picture.
Yeah, and the ruler steps out onto the balcony to wave, but then, without a single warning sound, the entire balcony just snaps off and collapses into the courtyard.
Wow, just out of nowhere.
Exactly. No earthquake, no invading army, just a sudden, catastrophic structural failure in broad daylight. And while we see this exact scenario play out constantly in the realm of leadership.
We really do.
Yeah.
Someone with undeniable talent, massive influence, all these open doors, they just suddenly lose everything in a spectacular public collapse.
Right.
It leaves everyone watching completely bewildered. But I mean, we tend to focus entirely on the altitude of a leader's trajectory, right? We completely ignore the internal engineering required to actually handle the atmospheric pressure at that height.
Oh, that's such a good point.
And the reality of structural engineering, whether we are talking about a physical building or, a human soul, is that the collapse doesn't actually happen the moment the balcony falls.
Right, it was already broken.
Exactly. The collapse was happening quietly, in secret, for years before the public ever saw the rubble.
And that invisible erosion, that is the entire focus of our deep dive today. We are structuring this session as a masterclass overview, specifically designed for you to take directly into your next Bible class or small group study.
It's going to be really practical.
Extremely practical. We are pulling our insights today from day 3 of the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang. And I really want to emphasize that it's Pastor Prosper Anang, not Dr. Prosper Anang.
Right, Pastor Prosper Anang.
The entry is titled, Guarding the Gates, Fortifying the Character Fortress. It's dated Sunday, 21 June 2026. And the central mission of this material, it's to unpack the terrifying gap between the gifts that grant you influence and the internal infrastructure actually required to survive it.
Because gaining territory is, it's a fundamentally different skill set than sustaining a throne.
Totally.
The devotional presents a pretty jarring reality for us. Our modern culture is obsessed with teaching us how to acquire power, right? But it's almost entirely silent on how to fortify the soul against the unique diseases that actually come with that power.
To really ground us in what Pastor Prosper Anang is communicating here, I want to share the specific PPA quote from this devotional.
Oh, this is a good one.
It really is. It's a profound distillation of the entire problem. It says, your charisma may grant you access to the palace, but only your character will prevent you from being executed within its courtyard.
Wow.
Yeah. Never let your public influence outpace your private altar.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it completely reorients how we view leadership development. Let's look at the first variable, which is charisma.
Okay, let's break that down.
In a spiritual context, charisma is defined here as an endowment of grace. It is a free gift given by God for a specific corporate purpose. It's the magnetism that attracts attention,
Oh, right.
It's the articulateness that opens doors, the raw talent that establishes your initial influence. Charisma is literally the key that unlocks the palace gates.
But the crucial point is that it's unearned. I mean, you don't necessarily work for charisma.
Not at all.
You just wake up with a certain aptitude or a certain favor. It's a freebie.
Exactly. Character, on the other hand, cannot be transferred through, a sudden spiritual impartation or some emotional weekend conference. It has to be painstakingly forged.
Yeah, that takes time.
The devotional notes that character is built over time through the unglamorous mechanics of consistent obedience, repeated self-denial, and an uncompromising commitment to truth behind closed doors.
So it's the hidden stuff.
Right. Gifting places the crown on the ruler's head, but it is the uncompromised soul that actually keeps the head attached to the shoulders.
I was trying to map this onto a modern equivalent, and it feels exactly like a viral marketing campaign for a tech startup.
Oh, I like that. Go on.
Imagine a company hires this brilliant marketing team, right? They create this incredibly catchy ad. It goes viral. Millions of people see it. Website traffic goes through the roof.
So that viral attention is the charisma.
Exactly. I got everyone in the door. But, and here's the catch-in, the actual product they are selling is defective. The engineering team cut corners.
Oh no.
Right? So when millions of people buy the product, it breaks immediately. What happens? That massive marketing campaign didn't save the company.
It actually ruined them.
Yes. It destroyed their reputation exponentially faster than if they had just stayed obscure. The public influence outpaced the integrity of the product.
That is the perfect psychological mechanism to explain this. The viral attention doesn't cause the flaw.
Right.
It merely exposes the structural flaws to a much wider audience, under much higher stakes. In the architecture of spiritual authority, territory is infinitely easier to conquer than it is to sustain.
Which is terrifying, honestly.
It is. The Devotional anchors this in Proverbs 25.28. It says, "Whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down, without walls."
Wow, broken down walls.
Yeah, and Pastor Prosper Anang uses the tragic historical example of King Saul to illustrate this. Saul was given total access to the palace.
Right, he was literally head and shoulders above everyone else.
He had the physical stature, he had the undeniable charisma, and he won the adoration of the entire nation.
But his internal walls were practically non-existent.
Precisely. Because he lacked the internal character infrastructure, he couldn't handle the psychological weight of the throne.
He just crumbled.
He succumbed to the fear of man, he compromised his instructions just to please the crowd, and he engaged in direct disobedience. The massive weight of the platform simply crushed the weak infrastructure beneath it.
So, okay, if a broken down wall leads to a crushed infrastructure, how do we actually establish a standard for our own internal city walls?
That's the big question.
Right, because we know what failure looks like with Saul. But we need a blueprint for what a fortified soul actually looks like in practice.
Well, Pastor Prosper Anang bridges that gap by moving from King Saul's failure directly to Jesus' ultimate template for counter-dominion defense.
Okay.
It's found in John 14.30, and it establishes the absolute gold standard for spiritual immunity.
The nothing in me standard.
Yes.
When I read this part of the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang, it literally stopped me cold.
It's powerful.
Jesus is preparing to face the cross. The full fury of the powers of darkness is mobilizing against him, and he makes this definitive, almost clinical statement to his disciples.
And what does he say?
He says, "The ruler of this world is coming, and he has nothing in me."
Notice the phrasing there. He doesn't say, "The ruler is coming and my weapons are bigger than his."
Right.
He says, "He has nothing in me." This reveals the actual mechanics of how temptation and spiritual destruction operate.
House.
The adversary cannot dismantle your life from the outside unless he finds an internal ally within your gates. It is a terrifying realization.
It really is.
The enemy is constantly scanning your fortress, looking for hidden resentments, secret compromises, or unchecked greed.
It's like a computer virus, you know.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
A virus can enter your system, but if it can't find a compatible receptor, like an open port or a vulnerable line of code, it can't actually execute its payload. It just bounces off.
Exactly.
The devotional points out that Satan can bring the bait all day long, but there must be a corresponding appetite inside the believer to actually swallow it.
Right, the appetite is the open port.
Yes. Jesus possessed total spiritual immunity because he harbored no hidden ambition, no unmortified lust, no ego that needed to be stroked. He provided zero landing space for the enemy's payload.
This represents a massive paradigm shift in how we approach spiritual warfare.
Because we usually focus on the outside.
Exactly. If you spend all your time rebuking external forces, binding the enemy, praying for protection against outside attacks, but you completely ignore the internal appetites of your own flesh,
You're in trouble.
you are essentially standing at the front door with a sword while leaving the back gate wide open for the invading army.
Which fundamentally changes the questions we should be asking ourselves. I mean, if the adversary needs an internal ally, what exactly is he tossing over the walls to draw that ally out?
Because there has to be a specific type of bait.
Exactly.
There is, and the Apostle John cleanly categorizes these vulnerabilities in 1 John 2.16. The Devotional unpacks these as the 3 fatal traps of the ruler.
Okay, let's go through them.
These are the 3 specific types of bait the enemy uses to breach the fortress,
Yep.
and we need to look at how each one functions mechanically.
So the first trap is the lust of the flesh. And usually when we hear that phrase in a Bible study, our minds immediately jump to like the most scandalous, dramatic moral failure.
Yeah, the big cinematic sins.
Yeah.
But the reality is often much more mundane, which is what actually makes it so dangerous. The lust of the flesh targets our physical appetites and our deep-seated need for sensory comfort.
So it's subtle?
Very. It's the slow, quiet surrender of discipline. It's the leader who is exhausted from the demands of their platform and begins to justify small comforts.
Like what?
An extra glass of wine, skipping the disciplines of prayer, seeking temporary physical relief from the stress of dominion. It is the insidious process of trading the long-term reality of the throne for the short-term relief of a bowl of soup.
Wow. You are just trying to numb the pressure, and in doing so, you slowly dismantle your own self-control.
Exactly.
Then we hit the second trap, which is the lust of the eyes. And the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang uses a really striking phrase to describe this.
It calls it a thirst for optical success.
Optical success. I mean, that phrase perfectly diagnoses our current cultural moment.
What's fascinating here is that the lust of the eyes isn't merely wanting a nicer house or a better car.
Yeah.
It is the psychological desperation to be perceived as successful by others. It is covetousness driven by optics. You replace genuine, long-term kingdom vision with a frantic need to maintain the appearance of growth and prosperity.
The psychology behind optical success in a digital age is terrifying. We live in a society entirely built on curating an image.
Everything is a highlight reel.
Exactly. You can be bleeding out internally, your marriage can be falling apart, your personal finances can be a disaster. But as long as the lighting is good, the feed looks pristine, and the follower count is ticking up, you feel a false sense of security.
It's a complete illusion.
You start exploiting your resources, your time, and even your relationships just to keep up the appearance of dominion.
And that superficial thirst blinds you to the actual structural reality of your fortress. You become so obsessed with painting the exterior walls that you completely ignore the fact that the foundation is crumbling into dust.
It's all paint, no bricks.
Right.
Yeah.
Which creates the perfect environment for the third and undeniably most deceptive trap, the pride of life.
This one is so subtle because it masquerades as confidence.
Yes, it does.
The devotional defines the pride of life as the arrogance that claims personal ownership over divine results.
Think about the neurological mechanism of success. When you achieve something great, when the crowd cheers, when the business succeeds, when the ministry grows, your brain releases a massive hit of dopamine.
It feels good.
Over time, if you aren't actively mortifying your ego, that dopamine rewires your brain to believe that you are the architect of that success.
Oh, wow.
You start believing that your intellect, your strategy, and your charisma are the actual source of your dominion.
You essentially start believing your own press clippings.
Yes. And the moment you claim personal ownership over the territory that God merely entrusts to your stewardship, you set yourself in direct adversarial opposition to God.
Because, as the scriptures warn, God resists the proud.
Exactly. Pride convinces a leader that they are an exception to the rules. They don't need accountability. They don't need boundaries.
They think they're untouchable.
And the moment a leader believes they no longer need walls, the collapse is imminent.
Because now you aren't just fighting the adversary, you have alienated your only source of grace.
You are fighting a war on 2 fronts.
So Pastor Prosper Anang has given us the diagnosis. We see the blueprint of Jesus, and we recognize the 3 fatal traps: the flesh, the eyes, and pride.
Right.
But diagnosing a disease isn't the same as curing it. Knowing how the enemy operates doesn't automatically keep the city safe.
Knowledge without infrastructure is totally useless.
Yeah.
This is where the devotional pivots from theological theory to tactical, practical enforcement. If you want to survive the palace courtyard, you must build what Pastor Prosper Anang calls an accountability infrastructure.
Okay, let's look at the actual construction of this infrastructure. The devotional says, erecting your walls begins with identifying your specific areas of vulnerability.
Knowing exactly where your personal internal ally likes to hide.
Yes, and drawing unyielding lines that you simply refuse to cross. But the real friction comes with the relational component.
Is the hard part.
It really is. The text says you must intentionally invite trusted, spiritually mature peers or mentors into your life and grant them the explicit authority to ask difficult, invasive questions regarding your private conduct.
It is the deliberate submission of your life to consistent scrutiny. This is how you reinforce the mortar between the bricks of your character.
But I have to push back on this a little bit because explicit, invasive scrutiny goes against every single instinct we have in modern society.
Oh, absolutely.
We worship autonomy. We live in an era of hyper-privacy where the ultimate goal is to be your own boss, answer to no one, and protect your personal brand.
Yep.
Inviting someone to ask invasive questions sounds awkward at best and deeply uncomfortable at worst. Honestly, how do you even send that text to a friend? Like, hey, want to grab coffee and ask me deeply invasive questions about my private life?
It sounds crazy.
Right. How does a listener practically implement this without it turning into some toxic, legalistic witch hunt?
It feels awkward because our culture has a fundamentally distorted definition of authority.
Okay, unpack that.
In the corporate world, gaining authority means climbing high enough that no one gets to question your decisions. You become insulated.
You reach the top floor.
Right. But true kingdom authority operates on the exact opposite principle. It is not measured by the size of the crowd listening to your voice. It is measured by the depth of Christ formed within your heart.
So the insulation we crave is actually a structural vulnerability.
Exactly. When you grant explicit authority to a mentor to ask invasive questions, you are preemptively assassinating the pride of life.
Wow.
You are voluntarily saying, I am human, I have blind spots, I do not trust my own optics, and I need an external engineer to inspect my foundation.
That's a very humble posture.
It is not legalism, it is self-preservation. Invasive questions are the only things that keep your private reality matching your public presentation.
So if you don't have that,
If you are leading a company, a family, or a ministry, and there is not a single human being on earth who has the authority to ask you the hard questions, the PP quote has already come true. Your public influence has outpaced your private altar.
that reframing changes everything. It's not about finding someone to, police you. It's about hiring a structural engineer for your soul.
That's exactly it.
And once you have that practical infrastructure in place, the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang equips you with the spiritual enforcement tools.
Yes, the daily tools.
It provides the actual vocabulary you need for your private altar. If you are taking this to your study group, this is where the application gets incredibly powerful.
The devotional provides 3 speak life personalized declarations.
Okay, let's hear them.
These aren't just positive affirmations, They're anchored in foundational scriptural law, designed to directly dismantle the psychological mechanisms of the 3 fatal traps.
So for the lust of the flesh, the declaration is anchored in 1 Corinthians 9.27.
Right.
You are actively declaring that your flesh is completely subject to the lordship of Jesus Christ. It's a decree of spiritual sobriety, choosing to discipline the body so that you don't become disqualified after preaching to everyone else.
Mechanistically, this declaration works by intentionally starving the physical appetites before they can demand a seat at the table.
Cut them off early.
Yes. Then, to combat the lust of the eyes, there is a declaration based on Psalm 119.37. Turn away my eyes from looking at worthless things.
Worthless things.
This is where you decree that your vision is single and fixed entirely on kingdom assignments, actively rejecting the superficial dopamine hit of optical success.
You are literally commanding your focus away from the metrics and back to the mission.
Exactly.
And finally, against the pride of life, the declaration utilizes James 4.6. This is the daily required acknowledgement that every gift, every platform, and every victory belongs solely to God.
It's keeping the ego in check.
You are choosing to walk in deep humility, actively declaring that pride will find no landing strip in your soul.
That specific phrase, no landing strip, is the visual core of the culminating spiritual warfare tool provided in the text.
Yeah, that imagery is strong.
Pastor Prosper Anang doesn't just leave us with personal declarations, though. He concludes with an apostolic legislative decree for his global audience.
Let's break down that term, because apostolic legislative decree can sound like heavy theological jargon. But it's actually a brilliant legal concept.
Think of it like a zoning law in the spirit realm.
Okay, a zoning law.
A decree isn't just wishing for a good outcome, it is establishing a strict jurisdictional boundary. When Pastor Prosper Anang issues this prophetic intercession, he is legally decreeing that every demonic net spread to catch your character is torn to pieces.
Tearing it up.
He is commanding a supernatural fortification of your inner man by the power of the Holy Ghost, establishing a boundary line where the adversary has no legal right to operate.
Hence the imagery tearing up the landing strip. You are ensuring there is no flat, prepared surface for the enemy's payload to touch down on.
Exactly.
No hidden ally. No unmortified appetite waiting to welcome the bait.
You are locking the gates against the flesh, the eyes, and pride. And the legislative promise is that in the exact places where the enemy has engineered a public collapse, the grace of God will step in to anchor your soul in absolute integrity.
That is so powerful.
It is a decree ensuring your character fortress remains unshakable, regardless of how high the balcony of your influence is built.
What an incredibly sobering yet empowering journey this material takes us on.
It really is.
We've moved from the stark warning that charisma is merely the unearned key to the palace to understanding that it is the daily forging of character that keeps you alive in the courtyard.
And we've looked at Jesus as the ultimate blueprint.
Yeah.
The absolute standard of having nothing in me for the enemy to exploit.
We've seen the necessity of auditing our internal gates against the subtle, everyday temptations of physical comfort, the modern obsession with optical success, and the blinding arrogance of owning our own victories. And we've learned that the only way to enforce all of this is by actively erecting an accountability infrastructure, embracing the awkwardness of inviting invasive questions, because those questions are the mortar of our fortress.
We prioritize the private altar over the public demonstration.
Because, as the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang clearly warns, an unfortified soul will inevitably collapse under the weight of an expanding platform.
Influence is a sacred, heavy trust. Protecting it requires both the ruthless practical discipline of accountability and the spiritual enforcement of the decrees we've unpacked today.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a completely different angle to consider, something to really wrestle with before your next small group discussion.
Oh, closing thought.
Yeah, we've spent this whole time talking about how to protect your influence once you have it. But what if the real danger is the pursuit itself? Think about the success paradox, the very traits that usually help us gain influence: ambition, a drive for public visibility, a relentless desire to expand our territory, are the exact same vulnerabilities the enemy uses as bait for the pride of life.
That's a profound tension.
Is it possible that the harder we hustle to build our platform, the more actively we are sabotaging the quiet, hidden character required to sustain it?
Wow.
Does the pursuit of the palace inherently weaken the courtyard? That is a tension worth exploring in your own private altar. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the profound insights of Pastor Prosper Anang. Take these tools, have the difficult conversations, tear up those landing strips, and keep fortifying those walls.